Imagine there's no country.
My country, 'tis a
It isn't hard to do.
sweet land of liberty,
Nothing to kill or die for,
where my fathers died,
and no religion too.
land of the Pilgrim's pride.
Imagine all the people
From every mountainside,
living life in peace.
let freedom ring.
You may say I'm a dreamer,
America,
but I'm not the only one.
God shed His grace on thee.
I hope someday you'll join us,
with brotherhood from sea,
and the
to
world will live as one. You may say I'm a dreamer,
for all the world,
but I'm not the only one.
seeing God in every face.
I hope someday
You'll join us,
and the
world will live as one.
Good morning. It's really such an adventure to give a talk when someone else chooses the subject. The title I was given is Get on Your Way. Now, I don't know about you, but if I were choosing a subject, it wouldn't be an invitation for the audience to leave. Good morning, everyone. Nice to see you. Now just get on your way, and we'll see you next week. So I'm going to start by asking that you wait until the end of the service to get on your way. And the band and the practitioners and I will do our very best to make you glad that you stayed, okay? Our theme this month is Already Free. Reverend Donald began the month asking the question, what is freedom? And he defined it as the complete level of well-being that comes from understanding the principle of freedom, which is that we are always at choice. The second week, he reminded us of the human tendency to only look at what supports what we already believe, and challenged us to let go of the sure, of our certainty that what we believe is really true, and instead to be open to recognizing that we are always free to increase and add to our current understanding if and when we open ourselves to the new information that our life experiences present to us. Those experiences are there so that we can grow. Are we willing to do that? He reminded us that we all have the potential to be and become what we never before imagined when we open our minds and hearts to another way of thinking. And then last week, Donald raised the question for each of us to ask ourselves, are you really free? And he reminded us that if there is any area of our lives where we do not feel free, we are failing to recognize that we have a choice and that what we are experiencing is what we are choosing. He said that because when we're stuck in our limited thinking, we fail to recognize that not only can we choose a new way, but that there are tools that we can use to make new choices, that create new experiences, and expose us to feeling truly free. So today, we're going to look at some of what stops us from doing that, and some tools to help us change our habitual patterns of thinking that keep us stuck, so that we can get on our way. Now, I'm going to share more about this later, but I think it's really important up front to acknowledge that limited thinking is not necessarily a character defect. It's the result of an earlier, now unconscious choice, often that came from childhood when we had limited support for choosing differently, limited exposure to examples of another way, and recurring similar experiences that encourage that pattern of belief to form in the first place. Our primary tools for making new choices are awareness of what is, being present, and a willingness to do the work necessary to really live a choice. We have to pay attention and do the work to bring our unconscious choices into conscious awareness, then create a support system for a new way of being, and set up different practices that allow us to experience ourselves in a new way if we really want to be able to choose something new. So right now I want to see if we can move beyond a bunch of words into an actual experience for you of what I'm talking about. So after explaining what I'm asking of you, I'm going to see if you're willing to do a little experiment with me so that you can experience what it takes to become more aware. It will involve taking turns, closing your eyes for a few seconds, with half of the room doing it at one time and the other half doing it at another time. Now, just like in life, you can cheat if you want to. But if you do, you'll miss the lesson that is the basis for the whole rest of my talk. Just like in real life, when you cheat and don't do the work, you miss the lessons. Or you can trust me and choose to participate. What's going to happen is I'm going to tell you a story, and at one point, Shemaine, who's, bless her heart, got my pictures onto a PowerPoint for me, will show a picture up here on the screens to half of the room at one point. She'll show a picture to the front half of the room while the back half closes their eyes, and then she'll show a different picture to the back half of the room while the front half closes your eyes. Is that clear? We're going to practice. So if it's your group's turn to have your eyes closed, when I say close, in that tone, you're going to close your eyes. And when I say open, you'll open your eyes. Got it? Okay. So let's begin. When I was a little girl, I had a wonderful imagination, and I used my stuffed animals to stage elaborate plays. I had lots and lots of those little creatures, but two of them were my favorite animals, so they were always the stars of the play. Now, my playwright skills were much greater than my talent for drawing, but I did draw pictures of a few of my favorite animals that somehow my dear mom managed to save through all the moves of my life as an army brat, and then begged me when I finally grew up to get them out of her attic. Now, you just saw my kitty picture that I drew as a little girl, and I'm going to now show half of you pictures of one of my drawings, and then we will switch and I will have the other half of you see another drawing, and after we're all done, we're going to show them both together and you'll vote on your favorite. Got it? All right, so back of the room, I want you to close your eyes now. Close. Shemaine will flash my bunny picture. Open. Okay, and now if the front of the room will close your eyes, close, we'll flash my duck picture. Open. Okay. Before we vote on your favorite, the ego of the little girl inside of me would like to do a reality check about my drawing skills. So front of you, how many of you were able to tell that I drew a rabbit? How many in the back could tell it was a duck? Okay, and some of you have already seen this, I'm sure. So Shemaine, let's show them both pictures together. Okay, so as you can see, I made up that whole story. I never drew anything even that well. And this is one of those pictures where people tend to see one thing or the other. You can see the duck, you can see the rabbit. We've got some other examples. This is another one that's a duck or a rabbit. That. Can you see it? Rabbit, duck. This one is a couple looking at each other, or a chalice. This one is an elegant young woman with a plume in her hat, or an old lady. Okay. Can you see it? Okay. All right, thank you. Thank you for bearing with me. And remember, be yourself. Everyone else is taken. So the point of that exercise is to demonstrate to some degree that when we have a preconceived idea about something, we tend to see what we're looking for and what we're looking from. And also that once we've been shown a different way of seeing, we can often see both pictures or both sides of the issues or multiple possibilities. It is our willingness to be aware that there's more than one way of seeing, and our openness to exploring another way of seeing, thinking, feeling, believing, that gives us the freedom to actually make choices. So why don't we do that, and why do we keep making the same choices over and over again? Because I'm guessing that, like me, some of you do that too, right? So in my former life in this body, I was a psychotherapist in North Carolina. And the model of therapy that I most often used was transactional analysis. One of the premises of TA, as it is called, is that based on our experience in the first 6 years of our lives, we each write what's called a life script about how life is going to be for us. Eric Byrne, the founder of TA, defined the life script as an unconscious life plan made in childhood, reinforced by the parents or whoever your caregivers were, justified by subsequent events, and culminating in a chosen alternative. And most of us tend to follow that script, which we are unconsciously aware of, for the rest of our lives, unless one of three things happens. The first is that we have a transcendent spiritual experience that dramatically changes our self-perception in the blink of an eye. A conversion experience, a miracle, the appearance of a holy being. Now, unfortunately, this is not an option we can all count on. The second one is that we face an unexpected traumatic event that doesn't allow us time to process it through our patterns, and we behave in a way that we could not previously have imagined. Examples are something like running into a burning building, stopping a robbery, being a hero in war. Being diagnosed with a potentially terminal illness can have that same effect. In all of these cases, people might be permanently transformed by that one very different and very dramatic experience. It overrides the script. This is also not an option we can all count on. The third and most available way of breaking out of the life script is that we intentionally choose to change. We work with a good therapist or a spiritual teacher who provide insight and tools to help us recognize old patterns and learn new ways of being. I would guess that that's one of the reasons that many of us show up here, to grow and learn new ways of showing up in the world, to take responsibility for the choices we've made, and to make new choices in a conscious way if the old ones no longer serve us. But my experience is that just showing up here on Sunday mornings and not doing anything else is unlikely to be truly enough to help us change a lifetime pattern of thinking and our beliefs about who we are and who other people are. It is by taking classes, doing the exercises in the classes, and doing sessions with a practitioner that will often be required to help us get to where we want to go. Now, of course, there are a lot of things that we can do on our own. And we, of course, hope that the Sunday talks inspire us to pursue some of those if we're not doing the classes and the other things. So I want this morning to remind all of us about these tools that are available so that we can make conscious choices and get on with it. I believe journaling is one of the best practices for increasing self-awareness if we're willing to do it consistently, set intentions for what we want to learn from it, and review it often so we can notice our patterns of thinking. So I want to share with you some of the ways that you can use writing to help you transform if that's what you choose to do. If you struggle with negativity and want to choose instead to see what's good in your life instead of focusing on what's wrong, I would recommend a gratitude journal. Commit to writing down 5, 7, 3, whatever number you choose, things every night or morning if you're a morning person for which you are grateful. I do it at night. I review my day. And there are days when I really have to search to say I am grateful for something. And sometimes it's I'm grateful that the sun was shining today and it wasn't raining. But usually it involves people in my life. But commit to doing that every day, and it's a wonderful way to force yourself to begin to focus on your blessings and shift to a more positive way of being. I brought a couple. You can buy gratitude journals already ready that have the dates on them and space to write every day. I think those are a great idea. I'll have these up here if you want to see them afterwards. If you struggle with constant worry and you would like to be more at peace, you could start a simple prayer journal that starts every day. I release, to begin the habit of whatever it is you're worrying about, to turn that over to Spirit and release them when you close your journal pages that day. And then if your worry comes up again, choose to remember, oh, wait a minute, I've turned that over. God is handling this. I don't have to. If you struggle with control issues, which I'm sure none of you do, you could choose to write a spiritual mind treatment every night for an issue that you're having with someone else. A treatment that focuses on changing you instead of changing and trying to control other people, which I have found doesn't really work that well anyway. And another great self-awareness tool is to make a list on paper of the rules that you live by. It may take some thought to think about, what are the rules that I live by? What are the things that guide my life? But make a list and then ask yourself whether those things are really serving you to be who you want to be. There's a wonderful story in the 10th chapter of Acts, in which one of the Roman soldiers, who is devoutly religious according to his own customs, has a vision that he is to ask the disciple Peter to visit him and preach to those that the soldier gathers around. And so as a man of faith, he acts on that vision and he sends some of his men to find Peter. At the same time, Peter, who has been fasting for a while, is in prayer, and he has a vision in which something that looks like a large sheet held together at the four corners is lowered down in front of him from heaven, and it opens up to reveal all kinds of animals and birds and reptiles. And a voice says, "Get up, Peter, kill and eat." But Peter responds, "Never, Lord, for not once in my life have I ever violated our dietary rules and eaten anything common or unclean." And so, as Spirit often does, the lesson is repeated 3 times. before Peter is called downstairs because the Gentile visitors have arrived. He's still pondering what went on in that vision, but he decides to go with them. And when he reaches the house, he's invited in to preach and dine with the great crowd that has gathered. He tells the Roman soldier that it is forbidden for a devout Jew to associate with or even visit someone of another nation, but that God had just shown him that such rules are not what God desires of us. Peter preaches and the Holy Spirit descends on those gathered, and they are baptized in the name of Jesus. It was at that point the breaking of the old Jewish law that opened the world up to Christianity. Christianity began to spread because of that experience. And I think we can all agree, whether you agree with it or not, it has changed the world. So, what rules might you be obeying that are keeping you from following the inspiration of Spirit to be so much more than your rules allow? Try writing them down and see what happens. And of course, if you want to be better able to listen to Spirit's promptings, you can start a daily meditation practice if you don't have one. If you're not sure how to get going or you've tried and it hasn't worked for you, you can ask a practitioner for help. There are also some great apps like Insight Timer and Calm that can really help you be successful, that will walk you through. It is also okay to recognize that sometimes we need a good therapist in addition to doing our spiritual work. There is no shame in that. There's no more shame in getting a good therapist than there is in going to a doctor instead of just doing prayer. I've always been grateful that my TA training and ongoing certification required me to be in therapy while I was being a therapist. So imagine how bad things would be, because I had 25 years on and off of therapy that was required, because my founders recognized that unless the people who we look to for guidance are walking their walk as well as talking their talk, they could sabotage our growth if it looks to them like we're getting ourselves more together than they are. Teachers rarely let students grow beyond where they are if the teacher isn't doing their own personal work. They can sabotage you. So, life is not stagnant. If we are not growing, we are decaying. And if we're not growing, we can fail to recognize the abundance of choices that are available to every moment. So today, what are you going to commit yourself to do to raise your moment-to-moment awareness of the choices you have throughout your day? What will you do to stay awake, to be present, and to not miss the magnificent opportunities that your life is offering you? I really hope you'll go out and think about that and do something. And I hope you'll share it with me, share it with your friends and loved ones, the new ahas that happen for you as you consciously choose the moments of your life. Let's all be willing to see that the rabbit and the duck are both present, and that we can decide to see them both in our every now moment so that we are free to make a choice. Let's get on with it. All right, thank you. So let's be in prayer together. In the beginning, God. God spoke, and out of the mind of that one divine Spirit, all that is came into being. All beauty, all joy, all peace, all love, all that ever was and all that is yet to be was created by that divine intention to express itself as and through all that is. And as part of all that is, I am one with the divine, one with all creation, filled with all the qualities of the one that created me and continues that work of creation. As I know this for myself, I know it for each person who steps forward to be reminded of this by our beloved practitioners. How grateful I am that it is already done. That the law of God says we need speak only our word, and it is done. And we have spoken it in belief, setting it into action. And for this I am so very grateful. And so we release it all in this deepest gratitude as together we say, and so it is.